Welcome back, everyone. Let's continue our base builder game and today implement the menu that allows us to install objects in our game world. So let's get started. So we'll create an install object menu, and that of course we need to create that view using SwiftUI, but also we will need to add some stuff to our view model. So we should have our view model provide the job goals that describe the various objects that can be installed. And we need to create the actual install object job after a player selected a location. This will be a pretty quick video, I think. Let's get started. So let's start Xcode. So let's start Xcode. Open our base builder tutorial. And let's work on our view model. So we already had built job goals, a variable here that returns whether a certain tile can be created. And we're going to do something similar, but instead for install object jobs. So we'll create a computed property install object job goals, and this will be an array of a tuple of a job goal and whether this one is available. This way we can show what all the things that you could install. However, if you for some reason are unable to install an object at this time, perhaps you don't have the required items, then we can create it out in the UI. But we can at least show our players the kind of objects that they can install over time. To do that, we need a list of all the objects that the game knows about, and we don't have that yet, I think. So let's go to our game content, and we have our kitchen counter defined here. What we should also add is a static variable all objects, just like we had these all recipes here. This will be an array of type object, and for now this will only contain the kitchen counter. So let's go back. We should now be able to take an object, our all objects, and map. We transform our object into the job goal. So our job goal will be job.jobGoal install object, and then for this object we also check whether it can be installed, and we do this by checking if the world contains the object item somewhere. This returns an optional. We can default it to 0. That way, if we can't find it in the world, we assume there are 0. But if there are more than 0, so we have at least 1, then available will be set to true. And then we return a tuple of the job goal and available. And this now is, you can see it, a variable that has both a job goal as well as the availability. Now let's assume at some point the player finished the selection and the current job goal is not of type change style, but is of type install object. Let's get the object out of the job goal. Then we would like to have a helper function that creates an install object job, or an object object. And we need to create this helper function. So an object, then we switch on the selection modus. If it's if it's anything but select single, then we print out a message that there's no current selection. If the selection mode is indeed select single, then we find the position. We get a world. Then we say let the job equals to job dot create install object job for the object at the position, and we enqueue this new job. And this should be all for we need to do for a ViewModel to support installing objects. So let's work on the actual user interface. Let's start in creating a new view. So we'll create a new file, and this will be a SwiftUI view, and it will be in the GUI folder, and we will call this an InstallObjectMenu. And it will be slightly similar to the build menu. So it needs an observed object for the view model, and it will bind to the submenu state. This way we can also dismiss the view when needed. Then we have a body, and the body will be a scroll view. And the scroll view will iterate over the ViewModel.installObjectJobGoals. It'll have an ID of the job goal.description. This should be unique. And then we have a job goal available, a tuple coming in. Then we create a button, and this button will have an action. And let's print out the job goal available dot job goal clicked. Set the view model selection modus to select single. Set the view model dot current job goal to the job goal that was passed in, and set the submenu state to none, indicating that we want to dismiss the menu. Then we also need a label, and this can just be a text for the job goal available dot job goal dot description. And we disable this button if job goal available is available is false. And that's it. We just need to fix the preview here, because we now need to pass in a view model and a constant submenu state. And this will be a new one. We will call this one install object. So let's go into a GUI and make sure that we have it here. This will be the new submenu state. And let's go into a GUI and add this. And after our build menu, let's say if our submenu state equals install object, then we want to show the install object menu. We pass in our ViewModel and we pass in our submenu state variable. And of course, we need to show the actual menu, a button to show the actual menu. So we have here the build menu button. Let's create a similar one for the install object menu, so we can use our logger. This will be an install object menu clicked. We set the submenu state to install object. We need a label, and this will just be a text called object, and we need to show decide when it's disabled. We disable this button if the submenu state is already install object. We had this print thingy earlier. Let's quickly go back and make sure that we don't simply use our logger.log. Okay, let's see what happens when we run this after we go into our world and get rid of some stuff, just to make it a bit clearer what's happening. So let's run. So our entity is waiting. We have a kitchen counter item here available. Let's zoom in a bit. We have our objects menu. We can install a kitchen counter and we click somewhere and this queues the job. The entity installs the kitchen counter and now the entity starts cooking. So it's creating cooked meals, it's storing the cooked meals. This is all working fine. As we notice, we don't yet have any visual feedback where we are installing the counter, and also we're able to simply queue installation of an object, a kitchen counter, in a place that doesn't make sense, such as in this wall. But that is something we will fix next time. So thanks for watching so far. Next time we will do some UI polish for the object install, especially giving feedback about where you're installing and whether that's a valid position or not. Thanks for watching and have a good day.